Castling is a special move that makes your king safer. You can tap and drag the king to g1, or you can tap the king and then tap the g1 square. When you castle, your king moves 2 squares and your rook swings around to the other side of your king. My turn. When castling, always move the king 2 spaces and the rook will move automatically. Now let's look at queenside castling. This time, move your king to c1. Whether you castle to the king side or the queen side, your king always moves 2 spaces while your rook swings around to the other side of the king. Castling is the only time in chess when you can move 2 pieces at once. Before you can castle, you must first move your pieces out of the way. This is called development. Develop your knight to f3. Good. Now you're ready to castle on the next turn. Now you can castle by moving your king to g1. That's it. At the beginning of your games, you want to develop your pieces and castle quickly. Let's look at another example. Here, it is your bishop that prevents you from castling. Move your bishop to b5. Now both your knight and bishop are developed, so that you can castle kingside on the next turn. Move your king to g1 and castle. That's it. Now let's look at castling on the queenside in more detail. Now your queen is in the way. Gently move her to d2 to prepare to castle queenside. I need to develop my pieces in order to castle as well. Notice how nothing stands between your king and your rook on the queen side of the board. Now move your king to c1 to castle queenside. Now let's look at some examples of when you cannot castle. You cannot castle if your king is in check. Block the check from my bishop by moving your knight to c3. I suppose I should castle. Now you can castle kingside by moving your king to g1. You're learning quickly. Let's look at another example of when you are not allowed to castle. You may not castle with a rook that has already moved, so in this position you may not castle queenside, because your rook has moved to c1. Move your king to g1 to castle kingside. You must be very careful about moving your rooks early, because once a rook moves, you cannot castle with that rook for the rest of the game. Next, I will show you how to prevent your opponent from castling. We already know that you cannot castle with a rook if it has moved. The same is true for the king. Check my king by moving your rook to e1. Check. Once my king moves, he will be unable to castle for the rest of the game. The king may not pass through check while castling. Move your bishop to the square h6 to keep my king in the center. Your bishop prevents me from castling by attacking the f8 square. Make your king safe and complete your development by castling. You have a significant advantage because my king is unable to castle. I've taken your bishop in the hopes of finally castling. Capture my bishop with your queen. Again, I cannot castle because of the attack on the f8 square. If I cannot castle soon, your small advantage will snowball into an avalanche of an attack. One way to make the king move is to force him to recapture a piece. Capture my bishop with yours. I must recapture if I don't want to lose material, but once my king moves, he will be unable to castle. My queen prevents you from castling kingside because you cannot move your king into check, of course. Luckily, you can castle in the other direction. Nicely done. Now you're ready for some practice on your own. You can immediately castle, but in which direction? That looks like a good move. I think I will follow suit. Let's look at another example. You can castle in a single turn. Do you see how? If you go that way, I will go this way. Opposite side castling sets the stage for an attacking game. What usually happens is that my pawns end up rushing towards your king's defenses, while your pawns push towards mine. You cannot castle because your king is in check. How can you resolve this? Nice move. Now I'm going to castle. Your turn. Well played. Again, your king is in check. Block the check so that you can castle your king. Nice move. This blocks the check and attacks my bishop. You still cannot castle because you are in check by my bishop. How should you recapture? Nice move. I suppose I should castle now. Your turn. A fine move. My rook prevents you from castling kingside, so your king will have to reside elsewhere. Any ideas? I can only castle queenside since my kingside rook has moved. Your turn. Nicely done. Let's look at another example. You cannot castle kingside because you have already moved that rook. So, what should you do instead? That's it. I was unable to castle kingside because your rook on g1 is attacking the g8 square. My queen prevents you from castling queenside. Your king must seek refuge elsewhere. Indeed. Now that we're both castled, we are in for a closely matched fight. Castle as quickly as possible. That's an excellent square for your knight. I'm ready to castle now. Are you? That's it. You're getting the hang of this. I have one final challenge for you. Do you see how to prevent me from castling? I have no choice but to recapture. And now my king will be unable to castle for the remainder of the game. Do you see how to castle and check my king in a single turn? After stealing my right to castle, you have safeguarded your own king and delivered check at once. Sometimes, you can castle to attack. This is an idea worth remembering. Good work completing this lesson. Develop your pieces and castle quickly in your games to keep your king safe.